Hello, my friends. I love you so much. I'm really pleased to be on here with you today. Oh, okay. So my neck is doing a lot better, and I'm going to go to the clinic later. I know I just uploaded a video yesterday, but I got such a profound message from the guys today, from the star beings, from our star family, and I needed to jump on and relay that message to you. So let's just give it maybe 2 more minutes, and then we will begin the transmission. And the reason I'm calling it a transmission is because there's a lot of vibrational key codes that are going to be transmitted to you through this video. Yeah, my neck's a little weird still, but that's okay. At least I'm going to try my best to just stay like this. Yeah. My birthday was amazing, you guys. Thank you. And I appreciate everyone who's taking the time to subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Oh, it's not accepting donations from India. I'll look into that. But I'm pretty sure it is. Did you try the credit card option? PayPal? No, we added a new credit card option about a week ago. So we can accept payments from anywhere now. Thank you. Sanveen, did you try recently? Okay, wonderful. Yeah, we fixed the issue. So we're good to go now. Thank you, Brittany. All right, we're going to begin because we have about 600 people in the house. So my new thing is whenever I get a download, I'm going to, and I'm not going to say I'm going to because when I say I'm going to do something, I don't do it because I'm a rebel like that. But it's easier for me to jump on with that fresh inspiration and share a message with you guys. So I just went out for a walk and I'm going to elaborate because I just did an Instagram video that was about 3 minutes, but I'm going to elaborate. I just went for a walk in my neighborhood, just meditative. So when I go for a walk, it's not like exercise. I'm just like, it's a light, mild walk, and I get to connect with my star family and I get to just connect to stillness. And I have a very cute neighborhood, and I was walking, and if you can imagine that I was going clockwise, okay? And usually it's not a problem. Like I always walk in that direction. And today I'm walking and something felt off. Like I'm going against the current and I'm supposed to be walking in the other direction. And as soon as I envisioned myself walking in the other direction, I was like, that feels better, right? So I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. And I asked my guides, and I feel like this was the star family. I asked them, what's going on here? And they said, Phil, you're walking in the wrong direction. And then they said, what we mean by this is that there is no right or wrong, but because from the space of no time, there's no such thing as a right or wrong direction. But right now, we're wanting you to walk in the opposite direction. And the best metaphor I can use is when you throw on an outfit, and sometimes that outfit is like great, like you love it, right? You're like rocking it. And then other times you're like, no, it's not working today. And so think of like when you wear an outfit and you're like, no, I'm not feeling this today. Something's like off. It's like one notch off, or it's misaligned in some way. with whatever energy you're carrying that day or whatever's supposed to happen that day. And then you change your outfit and then you're like, ooh, I'm in pocket now. This feels much better. So that's the best metaphor I can use as it relates to that. So I'm walking and you can imagine, like, I'm like, why am I going the wrong direction? I don't feel fully still in my being. Now, as the way shower that I am, as the trailblazer that I am, I always kind of go against my intuition because I already have a knowing. If you can think of your intuitive knowings as it's something that's locked in, you have a knowing that is intrinsic to you. We all have a knowing, right? Some of us don't have a strong knowing, but I've always had a strong knowing. So the way that I dabble is that I explore the darkness. I study the darkness. And I had a quote years ago that said, doctors study medicine, teachers study education, and healers study darkness. And what I mean by darkness is that I study the energies that oppose our intuition, our natural inclination. So that's what it means. Because think about it, there's nothing really to discover when you already have the knowing. It's a knowing because you know it, right? So as healers and as shamans and as these mystics, what we usually do is we will go against our intuition and then we'll go and collect data. We are like these data collectors. So I'm walking and I'm like, all right, well, this feels different. It doesn't feel right. So I'm going to keep walking in this direction because I love to open up new neural pathways in my brain, or I love to open up new tunnels that lead to different dimensions. And my guide said, yes, this is amazing that you guys can do this. And they were referring to all of us, the light beings. We are light beings who have dropped into this human form, into this human container. But we were here since the beginning of time, since the beginning of creation. All of us were. So I was like, I'm going to keep walking. They're like, yeah, that's good because this is how you guys were able to create. They basically summed up the creation story in like less than 5 minutes. They said, this is how you guys were able to create this physical world. So if you can imagine that you're this angelic being that oscillates at a very high frequency, so high that you don't have a physical meat suit, okay? And so you don't have this matter, this form, but you're this non-physical being of light. And then we were like, like Mr. Smith and Simpson, so let's go do something. And so the way that we were able to successfully drop into further and further density is we would go against our natural design or our intuition. Okay, so if you can envision right now, we were in this angelic realm, we were these non-physical beings all unified, and we're like, okay, let's go explore new territory. Let's go uncover new terrains of consciousness. So how do we do this? Well, we know who we are. Now let's go against that. Or we have this intuitiveness, right? Or we have this idea of what feels right or what feels like the home frequency. So now let's go against that. And by doing that, we were able to drop into further and further and further density. This was not by any stretch an overnight process. It took thousands of thousands of thousands of years, okay? And then they gave me a metaphor. They said, Phil, think of all the times you went on dates with someone and you right away, like you had this initial knowing they're not the one. It's something that you can't explain. It's just a knowing. This person's not the one. And it might be the way that they smell. It might be that they don't match what you connect to on a soul level. It might be that they say one thing and you're like, I'm a little off put by that, but not in a judgmental way, more in a sense that this is not in congruence with what I know to be true. You have a knowing of who you're meant to meet. You have a knowing of who your divine counterpart is, or who your twin flame is, or who your soulmate is. There's a knowing. And to me, that points to a potential soul contract that you have that you're supposed to carry out in this life. And so when you meet people who don't fit the bill, then you just know. And so, but for so often in my life, what I do is I have this knowing, my God, we have 950 people in the house. This is so cool. So usually I have a knowing and I'm like, well, I know they're not the one. So rather than moving away from them, let me go ahead and open that doorway and walk through that corridor and see where it leads. And a lot of us do this. We know who we are, or we have a very strong inkling that we're not meant to be with someone. It might be that they give off some sort of a pulse that they're narcissistic. It might be a tiny little thing that they say. And you're like, ooh, I think I just saw something, or a red flag of sorts. And instead of honoring your gift, which is your intuition, which is that knowingness, you go, all right, I picked up on a red flag that they weren't aware of. So that's something to keep in mind. Most people who give off a red flag don't know that they're doing it. So usually a red flag is a gift from the universe. Is the universe cautioning you against something? Is the universe warning you or forewarning you? And so often we go, well, I'm going to dishonor what I feel right now, and I'm going to open that door, and I'm going to walk through that corridor to figure out, ooh, what kind of data can I fetch? What kind of wisdom can I amass? And we do this all the time. So as I'm walking clockwise, I say to my guides, well, I guess I'll just keep going. They're like, no, it's good that you can do that. But right now, we need humanity. We need humanity more than ever to replug back into their angelic selves. Because as is, we're already caught in a very dense field. All right? So how can I say this in a way that makes sense to you guys? When you know that you're in the wrong relationship, or that you went on a date that wasn't really successful, and then you want to see them over and over and over again, you're starting to move yourself into a denser field. Okay? The guides were applauding us for that, right? Because they marvel at how we're able to drop into lower states of consciousness by going against our intuition. Does that resonate? And so they were showing me that this is how we created this physical world. Because we were dwelling within a certain frequency domain. And we're like, well, I wonder what else is out there. So we started going against our divine design. And then we started moving into these denser fields. In other words, uncovering uncharted territory. Moving onto these terrains that no one had ever uncovered. And this is what makes us so marvelous as these extra-dimensional beings, as these multidimensional beings of frequency. We are so incredible because we are able to detect that something is off with someone, but because we know that they're off, we go, I know they're off, but I'm going to explore this anyway. Okay? So I want to be very clear here that the guides don't judge us for doing that. If anything, they think that we're super brave and super courageous to be able to continuously find new terrains of consciousness. All right. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to garner more experience. And that experience pings back to source. Or you could say that that experience threads back to your soul or to your oversoul. And so if you can imagine your oversoul as being like a group soul consciousness, and everything that you do as an individual is actually lending a frequency to that oversoul, or it's lending your personalized experience to that oversoul, and everyone else who is part of that, who shares that oversoul, is doing the same. So the amount of data that we're able to accumulate is astounding. All right. So then they said, but now we want you to turn around because you're obviously uncomfortable walking in this direction. Now, bear in mind, this is a very subtle frequency, right? Because as you start to climb the ladder of consciousness, as you start to move yourself into higher dimensional domains of frequency, it's not so much about the tangible anymore. and the concrete. It was a feeling. It was a feeling. I'm driving in the wrong direction. And there's like this energy that's trying to alert you, hey, we want you to make a U-turn. And as soon as you make that U-turn, you're going to settle into your being. Okay? Does that make sense? This is really profound. Yeah, we're at 1K right now. It's amazing. And thank you for the donations. I appreciate it. Thank you, DMA32. Okay. Oh my God, you guys. Hold on. I literally almost dropped my light. But technically I can't drop my light because I am the light. All right, so then my guide said, turn around. So I turned around, and then I felt better, like immediately. I was like, oh, this feels so much more like me. And I'm gonna be meditating, so I might as well make it like a enjoyable experience. So then I'm walking, and then they kept talking to me. They said, Phil, now more than ever, we really need humanity to get on board with this idea that you guys have dropped really deep. Like you guys are in a very dense, dualistic, polarizing or polarized field of consciousness. So rather than continuing to go against the grain of the wood or to go against that invisible intuitive current, we need humanity to finally honor their gift, which is their intuition, so that they can start to enhance that intuition. Because if you think about it, right? If you think about it, if your gut feeling is telling you that someone might end up being narcissistic or toxic for you, but you enter that doorway anyway, well, what's going to happen is that's going to require a big chunk of your life or a big chunk of your time. So imagine you start to be in this relationship with this person, and then 5 years go by, right? But in this life, you don't have more than like 100 years. You might have 105. So time is of the essence. Time is the most valuable commodity that we have. So the guys were saying to me, you guys have wasted a lot of time, all right, entangling yourselves with people or governments or systems that you know aren't good for you, but that you wanted to explore anyways, and that you wanted to investigate anyways. And now we need you to start reconnecting into your divinity to assist humanity with the ascension process. Okay? But I understand how so many of us have an inclination. We have that inclination of going, I wonder what's here. I wonder what's going to pop out of this piñata. But your knowing is actually trying to help you, because there's the knowing, which is a knowing. It doesn't really move. It's like, to me, God, the all that is, it just is what it is. Like God is everywhere. The isness is God. It's everywhere. But then there's the elevation and the evolution that takes place, which is energy and motion. So we are the beings who are moving every day, who get injured, who go through things, right? And that allows us to accumulate information. But we always have the knowing, and the knowing is always intact. It's always there. Does that make sense to you guys? Please say yes. It does? Okay. So your knowing is there. Like, you know God, you know source. So even if you decide to be mischievous, or even if you decide to be naughty, you know how to get back to source. So, because that doesn't really move. That's the best way I can describe it. It doesn't really move. It just is. It's a knowing. But for us to be able to accentuate these psychic abilities and to start to elevate our consciousness again, to re-merge with our higher selves, we actually have to honor the intuition rather than go against the intuition. We have to start honoring the intuition rather than going against the intuition. So do you collect all kinds of data when you see that someone is probably not good for you and you decide to be in a relationship with them anyways, yes, but you're expanding, you're not always elevating. The thought that's coming to mind now is there are people who are in an open relationship. I'm more monogamous. I don't judge people, whatever they want to do. But my guide said to me years ago, Phil, the reason why you're monogamous and you like to be in a closed, sacred union with someone is because it's like being in an elevator that goes upward. So you're in this tight elevator with one person, and together you're able to rise. Okay? And even if you guys bump into issues, or even if you guys have hardships in your relationship, or trepidation, or trials, you are willing to sift and sort through it together and rise together as a one. Think of an open relationship. An open relationship is you're with someone, but you decide you can sleep with other people. So you're still expanding, widening, because you're going horizontally, or you're going to the left or the right, and you're meeting different people, and you're expanding your library of knowledge. You're getting to meet more people. You're interacting with different energies. That's all experience, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're elevating. Okay? Because if I say to you, let's play video games, and then we get bored. Okay, let's switch it up. Let's go for ice cream. Okay, cool. That was fun. Let's switch it up. Now let's go to a party. So you're moving around and you're accumulating all this experience, but it doesn't mean that you're elevating your consciousness. Elevating your consciousness is let's do nothing. Let's learn how to connect with our prana. Let's learn how to connect with our breath. Let's learn how to evolve our consciousness within this prison cell. If you're in a prison cell, you can raise your consciousness because you're leaving your body, or you're starting to link into other dimensional fields of consciousness. So that's kind of how I view it. So the star family was saying, we really need all the star seeds. And truly, I mean, just to be real, everyone, to start really embracing the fact that they have this gift called your intuition. And rather than opposing it, start working with it. Because by working with it, you're going to place yourself in that elevator, and you're going to start to understand where we came from and how we got here. Or you're going to understand how we're here and how we're starting to move into a higher consciousness again. We're making our return to our original selves, to our angelic selves. And so you can't really understand all the details or all of the different nuances if you're always broadening yourself rather than elevating yourself. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but so we have to really start working in collaboration with our intuitive gifts. And by means of doing so, we'll be able to climb the vibrational ladder. And so when you move from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4 to level 5, think of a video game. When you move to level 5, you have all the information that got you to level 5. You have all the different hacks or all the different cheat codes. You know how to beat level 1, 2, 3, 4 effortlessly. But if you've never done level 2, 3, 4, you're going to have a really hard time beating those levels. So as you start to raise yourself and climb that vibrational ladder, you're going to start to remember how you descended into human form, into physicality. And you'll also start to remember how to move up that ladder of consciousness. And it's so subtle. There are so many subtleties. In other words, before I awakened, I probably wouldn't have felt that invisible current today. That was like, you're going in the wrong direction. All right? When I started awakening, I might have felt it, but I may not have been able to telepathically have a whole conversation with guides about it and the creation of story, or the story of creation. So as you start to kind of move yourself higher and higher and higher, then all these different faculties within your mind start to open up. And that was the main message I got today. So More than ever, you guys, if you find that you're in a relationship that's toxic, if you're at a job that you don't love, if something in your body is signaling you, don't go out to this party. Don't be the defiant one and go, I'm going to go anyway. All right. By the way, that is your divine self because you're such an angelic being. You know where you come from. And so you're just exploring. But the guides are advising all of us right now to start honoring the gift, to start working with it. This way we can start to understand how we got here and how we're going back. Okay. Or you may start to receive new tools that you can assist others with. And I feel like a lot of my pain in life, I needed to go through that pain to understand a lot of people's pain. Not only people with like bipolar, not only people with sexual orientation, like being gay, not only people with eating disorders. I've had those too, not eating, but more like obsessive disorder with like the gym. I'm talking like 15 years ago. I had to eat chicken every 3 hours. I've gone through so much in my life because by doing so, I was able to study the darkness, if you will, okay, to add tools to my toolkit of ascension, my ascension toolkit, and then help others who are struggling with similar themes. But right now, our guides really want us to, buckle up, get in that spaceship, and not be afraid to go higher. And pay attention. Try to attune your mind to the frequency of subtlety. Try to attune your mind to the frequency of subtlety. What is being asked of you in this moment? Okay? And one exercise you can play. Sometimes people tell me they don't hear their guides. Your guides are always with you. Okay? When you're twiddling your thumbs at night and you're like, I don't know what I should eat tonight. And you're like, do I want Chinese? No. Do I want pizza? No. Do I want Thai food? Maybe. Do I want sushi? Yes. That's your guides. Okay? Those are your guides. We do this all the time without even knowing that we do. We're always in communication with our guides, but the idea is to start raising your consciousness so that you can start to deliberately tap into the details of what they're asking you to do. Does that make sense? So, from the higher perspective, there's no right, no wrong direction. There's no right, no wrong direction. But the guides wanted to emphasize today that when you do go against your intuition, then you spend a lot of time in areas or scenarios that you don't necessarily need to be in, right? From one perspective, everything that we're quote unquote undoing on this planet politically is because we went too deep into the density. And so it's going to take a long time to reverse that because we spent too much time in that corruption. And we are responsible for that. We are the collective. So we're responsible for all of it. So there's no right, no wrong. However, if you go against your intuition, then you might get kidnapped. If you go against your intuition, and your guides are saying, don't go home with this guy, he might be dangerous, and you go against that, then he might kill you. That's my point. So there is no right, no wrong, but if we're going to encompass all perspectives, there is a right and a wrong. You're putting yourself in danger when you go against your intuition. All right? And if you want to take it to the higher perspective of this collective, we went against our intuition so much that we got ourselves into this mess. And the only way that we can pull ourselves out of it, the only way that we can really undo this and disintegrate all these corrupt structures is if we take accountability for having gone against our intuition in our personal lives and we start to work in concert with our higher self and we start to honor our intuition. Okay, so when someone says there's no right, no wrong, it's true from the vantage point of the highest dimensions, right? Because if you think about it, those higher dimensions don't really care if you get injured. You're collecting data. Think about it. This is deep. This is just coming to me now. Those higher dimensions don't really care about any of that because they don't have feelings. They're not in their body. They don't have a body. So We have a body, right? So we do feel pain. That's not just an illusion. It's real. Like when you feel pain, it's pain. So those higher dimensions aren't here. So they don't care what's going on here. It's kind of like you. You may not know how many dogs are being neglected right now because it's not in the purview of your consciousness. It's not in your immediate consciousness right now, but it's happening, right? But it may not have an effect on you, but it does on some level. So what we want to do is go, there is no right, no wrong, but from another perspective, there is a right and a wrong. Anytime you go against your intuition, you're making a misaligned choice. And that misaligned choice might keep you entrenched in a situation or in a scenario that may not be the most enjoyable, like being in a narcissistic relationship when you already have the knowing to begin with. You see what I mean? So yes, there's no right or wrong. And yes, from another perspective, it would be wrong. Okay, I'll put it this way and then we'll wrap up. It would be wrong if I bought followers. Okay? People have asked me, have you bought your followers? I would never, ever buy followers, ever. Because that goes against my energetic makeup. I can't. So for me, that would be wrong. It may not be wrong for someone else. And in the larger reality or in the higher reality, it doesn't really matter. But for me, it would go against my integrity. So it would be wrong for me. Okay? Do I think tattoos are really attractive? Yes. It would be wrong if I got one because it's not aligned with who I know myself to be. But my best friend Rex has them and they're super hot. They're super sexy. So it would be wrong if I got a tattoo when my knowing tells me that's not for you. But you can still appreciate it on someone else. So from the multidimensional viewpoint, we have to look at everything. We have to include every perspective. There's no right, no wrong, okay? There's no right or wrong. You don't have to leave your job. It wouldn't be wrong if you don't leave your job. You don't have to leave the relationship. You can stay in there and keep learning about yourself. So the non-physical beings see it that way. If you're going to stay in a toxic relationship, cool, learn about yourself. So there's nothing wrong with you being in that relationship. But eventually we want to start working with our intuition because we have a tendency to self-sabotage. We have a tendency to kind of destroy our superpowers. It's like we don't have kryptonite and then we go get the kryptonite. You know what I mean? Or we don't have toxic friends or we don't have drama and then we create drama out of boredom. So that's my point. We are all being asked right now to follow the intuition, to follow that resonance of what's highest aligned for humanity. You guys, I don't know if you've looked outside, but we're in density right now. The last thing we want to go do is go deeper into density. Think of density as darkness, but it's not. Darkness is like what's unknown or what's unseen. So what we do is let's go find out what's there. And then we create worlds. You feel me? We civilize worlds. We colonize worlds. So what you want to do is go, I recognize that my intuition is telling me this, and rather than fighting it, I'm going to shake its hand and say, let's go higher now. Let's go higher. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. And thank you for subscribing. And if you'd like to donate, I really appreciate it. My donation link is feelgoodlife.com/donate. I'll attach a link below, feelgoodlife.com/donate. And I will see you in another version of the Now. And I really hope that this message struck a chord with you. I hope that the penny dropped. I love you.